Are we live? I think we're live. Hello everyone. Let me just see what I can see here. I just need to check something out. Do believe I'm live. Hello, hello, hello. Are we live? I think we're live. Hello everyone. Let me just see what I can see here. Just need to check something out. Do believe I'm live. Alright, sorry for the delay folks. I'm just trying to check because there's a slight delay and just want to make sure you're seeing what's coming through. Now this is I've been live for 2 minutes, but all I can see is the right, yes. Okay. Sorry about that. Stupid OBS and YouTube seem folks. I'm just trying to check because there's a slight delay. Yeah, they seem to not want to talk to each other. Anyway, now we're up and rolling. There is a delay. Right, okay, let's go. Right, so I'm now going to replace a system for a friend which died, which was that HP Pro. You've seen all my other videos on it, how it died, blew it out, worked on it, it died, it came back, it died, and all the rest. Anyway, long story short, it's died, and this is going to be a replacement system. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be putting this in. I'm going to put all this into a CIT case, not one of the best cases in the world, but basically it's a case of needs must. So I'll be using the Gigabyte H310, the S2H, which you see me do the RMA on. I'll be powering it with a EVGA 600 watt 80 plus certified power supply. I'll be using 6-core 6-thread 9th gen Intel Core i5 processor. I'll be putting storage, no hard drive, no SATA drive. I'll be using the ASENNO. It's a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. Yeah, so modern SSD. For RAM, I'll be using a Ballistix gaming memory. It's 16 gigabyte kit, which is 2 sticks of 8. Yeah, and also because my client requires, he has a lot of films on DVD and the likes. I'll be putting a DVD drive on it, and also I'll be putting a Wi-Fi card on it. This Wi-Fi comes with Bluetooth built in as well, but obviously I'll be doing that last. So without further ado, let's get going. So what I'm actually going to do now, I'll just put these aside. I'm just going to put these aside for you. And we're going to get the board prepped. So let's open up the board. Now you all remember this board. Yeah. You all remember this board. It's the board that I did the RMA on. It's the one that I got from Amazon, and it had bent pins. Well, I had 2 bent pins. There's the arrow shield. We don't need that for the moment. SATA cables we won't be using. Oh, probably will be for the DVD drive. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. That I won't be using. All the paperwork. So we've got our IO shield there. I'll leave that there for a second. Right, so we'll take. We'll take our board out. I am working on an anti-static mat. This is my anti-static mat, you all remember. Over there. So just get rid of that. Put that in there. Close that down, and I'm going to be working on the box itself for a moment. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually put my CPU in. So I'm going to put the Intel Core in. It comes with its own. This does come with its own cooler, and the cooler is quite adequate for that. Okay, so there we go. Just move over a bit so you can see a bit more. Right. So let's get this processor in. I'll just get in a bit closer. Just get rid of that. Right in there. Close that down, and I'm going to move it from the box itself. Get it out of the way. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually put my CPU in. So it comes with its own. This does come with its I'm just looking for the narrow end. So right, okay. So you can see this is the big end with a big tape on it. We're going to cut this end with a small bit of tape on it. Right. So let's get this processor in. Get a bit closer. Man, that's tough tape. And here we have our cooler and our processor. There's a cooler, there's a processor, some documentation, go faster stripe. Don't need that. So you can see this again with a big tape on it. We're going to cut this end with this. And I'll just be one second people. And that's tough tape. Here we have our cooler and our processor. There's a cooler, there's a processor, some documentation, go faster stripe. That. So you can see it's again with a big tape and I'll just be one second. I'm just gonna flick over to the. See if there's any comments. Right. So let's open up this socket. Let's get the processor out first. Without further ado, hopefully no more interruptions. Processor out. Right. So let's do the socket. Yes. Processor out first. What we're going to do. Hopefully no more interruptions. And what we want to see here now. Move that way. There we go. That's thin. So I'm now going to line up the gold triangle. I'm going to line up the gold triangle. I'm flicking between two. Right, there we go. I'm lining up the gold triangle which is there. And there's a triangle on the board here. I'll just put that down there. There's a triangle on the board just here. What do we want to see here now? Here, right? So those two triangles are going to line up together. So I'm just going to line it up now. And insert that. There's also some notches. There you go. That's one CPU in. Remember, under there. Save this. Now we're putting this in your box. No, you are. We're putting this in your box. Do not throw this away, because if anything goes wrong with this board while it's still under warranty and I have to send it back, this has to be replaced on the board. It's important, because all the pins are inside the socket on this board. That's why it's called an 1151. It's called LGA. Look there. It says LGA. 1151, and what that means is that it's a LAN grid array and there's 1151 pins in that socket. Yeah, solar battery. Okay, next I'm going to put, there's only two memory slots on this, so I'm going to put this. This has to be replaced on the board. It's important because all the pins are inside the socket on this board. That's why it's from 1151. So let's get that open again. There. It says LGA 1151, and what that means is it's a LAN grid array and there's 1151 pins in that socket. Okay, next I'm going to so we've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 sticks of 8. We line this up. What we do, that notch, make sure it lines up with the notch on the board. So what you do, you just offer it up to the board first and make sure, see if it sits in place. If it's in place, that's great. If it lines up, it's correct. If it doesn't, you turn your RAM around. You push it till you click either side. There you go, that's one stick in. That's 8 gigabytes. And usually if you 16 gigabytes of RAM, put your 2 sticks of 8, put your sticks in the same way, it should fit. Line this up, what we do, that notch, click again. There you go, that's 16 gigabyte of RAM. So far we've installed 16 gigabyte RAM, our processor. There's nothing else really on this board now to install as such. Oh yes, we can put on our storage. Tell a lie. So keep that. That'll go in the box. That'll go in the box for the client. The cooler will go on that. I'm not ready to put the cooler on yet. We don't need a thing, but I'll give that to the client anyway. Click again. There you go. That's 16 gigabyte of RAM. So far we've installed 16 gigabyte RAM, our processor. There's clean as it goes, right? So we're now going to put our storage in. So 1 terabyte of storage. Here we go. Yes, that's replacement for hard drives. So that's 1 terabyte, and that's what we call an M.2 NVMe drive. If you want to know the difference, there's an NVMe and you've got the SATA drive, which looks exactly the same, but it's got 2 notches in it, one either side, one slightly larger than the other. But this is an NVMe, which is the faster of the two. Yeah, so we're going to insert that. Before I do that, I need to just, it's going to place that into the NVMe slot here. This is where it goes in. And it connects here. So just remove this screw because this is what we're going to use to secure the drive down. Okay. So now you don't bend the drive to get the thing out. So we're going to insert that. Before I do that, you don't bend the drive. You bend the clamshell. NVMe slot here. This is where it goes in and it connects here. So just remove this screw because this is what we're going to use to secure the drive down. You line the drive up. Line the drive up in its housing. Now you don't bend the drive and you just push it back until the gold disappear. The gold fingers disappear. Push down, and you don't need to screw this screw down super tight, just till it goes snug, because all it's doing is just holding the drive down. So that's now your storage in. So that's how they're both prepared. So now we've got our processor, our RAM, and our storage. And this makes it so quick because there's no cables. There's no cables as such to run, not like the old-fashioned SATA drives. It's running straight from the CPU lanes. Okay, so that's out of the way. So now we're gonna push down. You don't need to screw this screw down super tight, just till it goes snug, because all it's doing is just holding the drive down. That's how your storage is. So that's how they're both prepared. So now we've got our processor, our RAM, and our storage. And this makes it so quick. So that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the case, or I'm going to put this in the case first. So let's get our case. Let's just move this out of the way a second. That's our power supply. Just move that out of the way a second. Case, the CIT case, here we come. CIT case. I'm going to prep the case, so I'm going to put this in the case first. So let's get our case. Let's just move this out of the way a second. Okay, so the CIT case. Just move that out of the way a second. And I'm now going to up. In fact, we'll take both side panels off here, because so the CIT case. And I'm now going to off. And I'm going to take the other side panel off as well. We'll take both side panels off because okay. I've already pre-installed the screws for the standoffs in the standoffs. That's to make sure that I didn't have them. This case has actually been repurposed. Built in this case several years ago. The client upgraded and didn't want the case back, so I ended up being left with it. But there we go. Right. So next thing now we need our I/O shield, because we're now going to install the screws. We're now going to place I/O shield. This case is actually been repurposed. Built in this case several years ago. The client upgraded and didn't want the case back, so I ended up being left with it. There we go. Right. So see that. Next thing now we need so just get this out of the package. One I/O shield. With the I/O shield, it's important that you note that the audio ports actually go down towards the bottom of the case. Now, in quite a few instances, this is probably the worst bit of building a system. Is getting this I/O shield in, because it's so finicky. They're so finicky and can be quite. It's important that you note that the audio ports actually go down towards the bottom of the case. There we go. You can hear it going in. The thing is, this case is so flimsy. I don't really like this case. I'm afraid I had no other case. So finicky. Now we're going to install our motherboard. Let me just take some of these cables out the back so they don't get trapped behind the motherboard. Here it going in. The thing is, this case is so flimsy. we're going to install our motherboard. Let me just take some of these cables out the back so they don't get trapped. So I'm just behind the motherboard, ensuring that I don't get any grounding straps trapped. Now this is a bit finicky because this, there we go. This I/O shield is not grounding straps trapped. Let me just check all the ports. Nothing in the HDMI port. Nothing in the Ethernet port. Okay, we seem to have success there. So let me just start securing this. Let me just get a couple of screws in, secure this. Let me see if I can. Right, it's not. I know it's not the best of angles. What I really need is a overhead camera so you can see down into what I'm doing. So I'll show you what I was checking and the things to watch out for when you put your board in, because you can put your board in, then secure it down, and then finally you've got to take it all back out. A couple of screws in. Now I'm not screwed none of these screws super tight. All I've done is just put them in and got them started. They're all still loose. You can actually turn them by hand and unscrew them. What I really need is a overhead camera so you can see down into what I'm doing. This is so I can still manipulate the board, because obviously it's always checking and things that don't always line up when you put your board in, because you put your board in, then secure it down, and then finally you've got to take it all back out. Now I'm not screwed none of these screws super tight. All I've done is just put them in and got them started. They're all still loose. You can actually turn them by hand and unscrew them. There we go. So now, before I tighten them all down, I'll show you what I was doing, what I meant with these I/O shields. When you put your board in, it's important that you check that none of these grounding straps slip into your port, especially when it comes to like your HDMI port and your Ethernet port, because if you foul it and then you try to put a cable in, you won't, and you can actually short it out. You can actually short it out, because don't forget, some of these pins inside here carry current, especially for HDMI, because that carries a current. Ethernet, that carries a current. I mean, in fact, all of them carry a current. What I'm saying is, when you foul them, that's a problem we can have. And depending if it's the high rail, you can actually not only just blow your board, but if it shoots right through the board, it can kill your processor. It can damage your memory. You know, you can just actually toast everything. So you could find yourself with a very expensive repair, i.e., buying the whole total parts again to rebuild. Yeah. So it's important that you always check your ports. So you, when putting your board in, especially when you've got these I/O shields that you've got to put in yourself, take your time, get it right, get it in once, get it in right. Yeah. It's far better than having to, because if you get foul any of these, you've got to take it all out. There's no way around it. You've got to take it all out. So take your time, do it once, do it right. Now I'm going to do now, I'll go around and tighten all these down, because I've now got them all my screws in. They're all in, so I'm now going to tighten the board down now, secure the board. Again, you don't tighten it down that you start even crunching on the board, because there's traces in between the boards, and you can actually damage the board, kill the board again, cause a short. So what you do, you just tighten it down, and when it gets tight, one little quarter turn just to snug it up. Because the board's not going anywhere. There's no vibration that's going to work these loose. So you don't need to crank down on them. It's not, you know, it's not like a car part, your suspension wet that needs to be super tight. This is not. This is electronic. So what you just need to do is 1, 2, 3, 4.
all you just need to do is just snug them. As long as you snug them, don't crank them down. Don't start hearing any crunches on the board, because if you do, then you've started to cause trouble. Okay, so now we've got our board in. So our board's in. We've got our processor, memory. I'm not putting the thermal compound on yet, and I'm not putting the fan on yet because I'm not ready for that. I need to work around. So now I'm going to start doing, before I put my power supply in, I'm going to start running some of these front panels connectors on, get them on. As you can see, there's not a lot of cable management space around the back of this case. There is a bit, a few here for. Okay, so now we've got a few here for. So our board's in. Tying cables down as such. But you ain't going to do no massive cable management around here. So I've got the front port panels and I've got the audio panel, which I'll now run round. So that's the USBs. So we'll find out which side that comes out, and we'll get these run through. As you can see, there's not a lot of cable management space around the back of this case. There is a bit, a few here for. Right, so I'm going to get me audio in first, because that's the longest one. The longest one. So we're going to get that in first. Audio. So I've got the blank wire, so it's down this end. So this. And boy, this is really tight. I'll probably just about make it, but then it'll be on a tight stretch. So we're going to get that in first. So I've got the blank. Fact, I'm not going to. I can see that it's probably going to cause a bit too. I'm going to put too much tension on. I could probably lift that and run that. I'll probably do that. If I lift that, if I just loosen a couple of these screws. It's just this audio one, which is it's slightly inhibitive. And what I'll do is actually run, see if I can get the cable to just run. Can get enough lift to run behind that standoff. See them. Put too much tension on. Probably lift that and run that. I'll probably do that. If I just lift it, loosen these screws. Right, there you go. Pull it behind. Right, and that'll fit better. Okay, so now I can put this back. So what I've just done here, for ease of cable, because I don't want no horrible cable running across the front of the board. Well, the minimum as I can. Can't help it with the power supply once it goes in. But I can tie those up. What I've just done is actually, although I've ran the audio cable back around the back of the case. It ran around here before, but it was too tight, it wouldn't reach, it was pulling, and it would, tension on the wire, too much tension for my liking. There was not, if it just had a little bit of slack with no tension on the wire, that would have been great. But it wasn't, it was too much tension. So what I've actually done is just took the two screws out of here off this motherboard and just lifted it corner slightly, so it's actually now rammed slightly behind the motherboard. But this is the only one that's going there, all the rest will reach. It's because it's the audio, and because it's always in this corner, it's the hardest. And the thing is, the plug can only go in one way because it's got a blank spot. And unfortunately, that blank spot is right this end, which is what's causing the tension on the cable. But now we don't have that tension. It's clear. So now you see I've got plenty of slack now, which means I can always take it back slightly out. The only thing is I'm just trying to position it. It's actually now rammed slightly down the motherboard. This is the only one that's going there. There we go. All the rest will reach. It's because it's the audio, and because it's always in this corner, it's the hardest. And the thing is, the plug can only go in one way because it's got a blank spot. And Right, that's the audio cable in. Now let's get, there is a USB, front USB, which I've seen, which is this one. Now this one should reach okay because it is not, it has not got to go as far. There you go, more than enough. So just make sure, where's that blank pin? Blank pin in this corner. What's TPN, EVS. So that blank pin is at the top here. That's the audio cable in. Now let's get Right, so there we go. So now we've got that in. Now we're going to start to put our front panel connectors on down there. I'll do this. Now normally I'd put my power supply in and start doing this, but because this case is not the greatest in design and there's not a lot of adaptability to it, I'm assembling it in a way which is going to make it easier for me. So that's why I'm doing things in certain ways. I know a lot of you be out there saying, well, I won't do that yet and I won't do that yet. But if you was working in this case, you'd see what the problem is. Because once it becomes crowded, getting to some of these panels will be a bit more difficult. So while I've got the light and I've got the space, I get to them now because these are the finicky panels, the more finicky switches to put on. Easy, but still finicky. The only other main connectors now is the CPU power and the 24-pin power. Right, so let's get these front panels connected up now. So I can come through here again, and now these. More finicky switches to put on. Easy, but still finicky. The only other main connectors now is on the HDD activity and right. So what have we got here now? CPU, HDD LED, 24-pin power. So which is bottom right. So HDD LED down, bottom. And then next to that should be the reset. That's the power switch. Reset. Reset comes through. And then there. Yeah, reset. Reset next to that. And then above that should be the power switch, and then we've got the power LED. So now we've got that's the power switch, so this should be the power LED. Yeah, so I'll just pull this in through. Power LED, plus and minus, so they go above. They go there and there. Now you can you see now? They go there and there. Now you can already see now. These are the finicky bits. In a much bigger case, won't be a problem. But now we've actually got it out of the way, and there's the power switch. And what I'm looking for there's a little triangle on this pin, which is the plus. Don't really matter because it's just a switch, but I've got OCD, so I like things correct. So basically, you just got your 4 blocks, your four blocks of wire there. And there. So I won't put a wire tie around that. Yeah, I probably will do just to keep it. These are the finicky bits. Much bigger case. Just to keep it neat down. But now we've actually got it out of the way, and there's the power switch. And what I'm looking for there's a little triangle on this pin, which is the plus. I'm actually thinking you actually need to put any wire ties around that because there's. And it's all neat anyway. So basically, you just got your 4 blocks. Your four blocks of wire there. And there. So, put a wire tie around that. Yeah, probably will do just to keep it. Just to keep it down. Yeah, just to. Need to put any wire Yeah, just keep it out of the way, just keep it neat. Just keep it neat. I'm just going to flick over to see what the live stream looks like. Yep. There's a delay of the live stream. But we're all good. We're all good. Okay. That's a bit of cable management done. A little bit. Keep it going along. Right, there we go. Just take the pigtails off. Right, okay. Next, what do we want now? Oh, that's for the DVD drive, which is already up there. DVD drive, which is already in. I already pre-installed that. As I said, this case was used prior. So now I'm going to put our power supply in. Yes, we're going to have something to power it up with. But just before that, I'm going to check, make sure that there's no problem with the power supply. Now I know there's no problem with the power supply. There's a new one, but even new things go wrong. So let me just grab my power supply and my little power supply tester here. DVD drive, which is already in. Already pre-installed that. As I said, this case was used. So now I'm going to put our power supply. Now this is a what we call a non-modular. See, no ketchup and black cables. This is what we call a non-modular power supply. By that I mean all the cables attached. When we say a modular power supply, you've got a fully modular, which means every single cable you have to attach yourself. Yeah, you have to put on yourself. The advantage of that is that it means that you're just using the cables that you require, and so you don't have the rest of the cables dangling having to be in the case. You've got a semi-modular, which is probably the best way to go around a fully modular, because no matter what, you need the 24 pin and the EPS power supply power cable attached, because you need them anyway. You're going to need them. So what a semi-modular is, them two are already attached, but then any other cables you then attach yourself. So semi-modular is probably the way to go rather than fully modular. The thing with fully modular is if you're building like a showpiece in a showpiece case where everything will be on display, then obviously you could do what we call cable modding, which you could actually send off a cable specifically made to match this power supply. Obviously it costs you more, but that's obviously if you're going to have a case window and you're going to be seeing it. Different things for different people. But my client don't need anything like that. She just wants a system that actually works, reliable, and will do what they want. So we're now going to fix our PSU, and now I want the. Obviously, you could do what we call cable modding, which you actually send off the cables specifically made to match yourself to match the power supply. Cost you more, but that's a cord that comes with it. Its own power cord. Different things for different people. My client don't need anything like that. She just wants a system that actually works, reliable, and will do what they want. So we're now going to fix our PSU. Now I want the.
I'm actually looking for my box of tricks because I've got some.
I've got some screws with power supply screws in it.
Here we are.
Right, so Let's get our case back up again. Let's get the case back up again, and now we're going to attach our power supply. So, right. Making sure the power supply switch is in off, even though there's no power to it yet. But if you get into the habit of following some safety precautions, save yourself a lot of grief. Okay, so that's that in there. I just need some screws to secure this. I said I was going to check it first. So let's just take that out again. I wanted to see that this is actually a good power supply. Following some safety precautions. Let me just. Okay, so that's in there. Let me just use a temp to secure this for now. I said I was going to check it first. Let's just take that out again. And that's on. I wanted to see that. I've got a cable there. So I want my 24 pin. You can see 20 plus 24 pin. Plus 24 pin. So I want my 24 pin. You see 20 plus 24 pin. I need to clip this on because it's just 20 plus 24 pin. Yeah, so having these fandangle things, but I never. There we go. There we go. It's just the alignment of them is a bit of a pain. So what I'm checking, I want to check the CPU. There we go. See, CPU. And this board does have, I think it's an 8-pin. There we go. It's just the alignment of it is a pain. I think it's the wire being a bit. Wire is a bit stiff, so I got to manipulate things. You just got to manipulate things a bit. CPU. And this board does have, I think it's an 8-pin. These are why being a bit, why is a bit stiff, so I've got to manipulate things. That's the 8 pin, that's the 6 pin. And then because I'm going to be using SATA as well on the, I want to ensure that. And what I'm going to do is just check. I'm just checking that. I'm just checking for the way the. These have the keyed only goes a special way, so because it's dark in there, I couldn't see which way this is keyed. So I don't want to put it in the wrong way, because there we go. Now we'll put our. Make sure that's in the off position. Put that on. And what we're going to look for, I want you to look for, we're going to read out, I'm just checking that, I'm just checking for the way there we go. So we've got, excellent, we've got our, let me see, if I turn this lamp off, will you be able to see it? I don't want to put it in the wrong way. Hello? Right, this is, you can see the 12 volt here, the 5 volts, and the 12.2 volts. Just 1 second. There we go. So we've got, excellent. We've got our, let me see, if I turn this lamp off, will you be able to see it? So there we go. So that is absolutely in shape. Let's see if I can. See the 12 volt here, 5 volts. I don't know if you can see this. 12.2 volts. But everything is reading as it should be. Yeah. So I've got my 12 point, my 3.3 from my SATA. So everything is okie dokie. So there's nothing wrong with this power supply. It's absolutely spot on. I'm just sorry the camera can't pick it up as good as I'd like it to. So there we go. So that is. Yeah, it's too much reflection because of the colour of the screen and that. But trust me, it's on. I don't know if you can see this. But everything is reading as it should be. There you go. It's now faded off. Yeah. So I've got my 12.3.3 from the SATA. So everything is okie dokie. So there's nothing wrong with this power supply. It's absolutely spot on. Okay. I'm just sorry the camera can't pick it up. So as good as I'd like it to. Now I'm absolutely spiffing with my power supply. And this is what I use for testing power supplies now. Okay. So that's done. We can put our power supply in. And we're not far off getting ready for boot. Okay, well, we'll get our power supply in now. Things are looking good. So, power supply. This is our position. And this is what I use for testing power supply. Okay. That'll be on the rest. Okay, so I'll just need some screws and we'll secure that down. We'll secure that down now. So, power supply. Position. So the first one I want to do is this one up here. Just like that. Yeah. So, alright, you can't see, I'm just securing. Sorry guys, let me pull this back up. I'm just now securing in the power supply. See, power supply is in, and I'm now just securing it. Sorry about that. Got carried away. If you wonder why I'm taking that screw out, it's because it's too long. There's certain screws for certain. So, alright, you can't see. I'm just securing. Sorry guys, let me pull this back up. I'm just now securing in the power supply. See, power supply is in. I'm now just securing it. Sorry about that. Got carried away. There you go. One the right screws. There we go. You wonder why I'm taking that screw out. So now we're there. So now you can see we're more or less there. Okay, so our power supply's in, our motherboard's in, the motherboard's been prepped and put in. Obviously we have to do a bit of management with all this. I have to that'll be down the front there somewhere, but we need that. We need 2, 4, 6, 8. We need the 8-pin. We need the 8-pin. No, that's a PCIe. So that's for like graphic card if you have any. If you're going to have one, but this has got built-in graphics. This processor, so we don't need that. And there's my CPU. So these are the 2 cables that I need. So I now need to, as I say, because of the lack of space. Because of the lack of space, that's why I'm doing doing my cable management. I wouldn't normally do cable management as I'm going along. I'd like leave that. PCIe. I'd like leave that. This has got built-in graphics. This processor, so we don't need till last. So I'm just untangling the cables, put them in such a way. I've got them. I need them too, and then I need one SATA for the. One SATA for the DVD. So I'm just untangling cables. Right, so I want to get the nearest SATA on. The reason for that is so that it makes my cable management a lot easier. That's not. Surely, is it? Well, that's a new one on me. That is a new one on me. No, it's not. It's that one. Okay, that's better. That's what I say. Had me a bit perplexed there. Right, okay. So I've got, the thing is, I've got a combination of Molex and what's it? Well, Molex. I don't know why they bother putting Molex on these anymore, because the standard is no longer Sander's not really any longer required. Right, so just to manipulate this, I might just have to. Yes, this end, great. The thing is, I've got a combination of Molex and Molex and Molex. I don't know why I bother putting Molex on these anymore, because the standard is no longer. Standard's not really any longer required. Right, I'm just having to take that off so I can see what I'm actually doing. Okay. Got that on. Now we can put that back on. Whatever that was. Right, I just want to. What I like about this is a right angle cable. See what I'm actually doing. That's it. Great. And now we need to tie those up. Let me stand this up. Now I'm going to have to struggle a bit in with the not struggle, but I'm going to have to do the cable management. The good thing about this, the cable management, I can tie that up down the front there. So I need that out of the way. Now we need to tie. Better put it on the front, and then I could. Stand this up. Yeah, I've just seen a way to make my job easier. That's what I've just done. I've just discovered. I've just spotted something that's going to make my job a lot easier. Pull that down there. Pull that down there. Yes. Sometimes you have to do and redo. Yeah, I've just seen a way. It's because this case is so cramped, but I don't want the cables impacting on airflow. I want the system to stay cool. Sometimes you have to do and redo. It's because you're not going out far enough, Michael. That's a problem. There we go. I wasn't going down far enough. I was staying too high. It was just the way the cable lay is. Right, okay, there we go. Now, the reason why I unplugged that because I had it up on this one. Let me just switch to this. Yeah, I had it up on sort of like this one, but because it was too high up, then I had a load of cable hanging down in the case. But by moving it to that one, all this then can be hidden behind out of the way, so it's neat. The only thing I've got to connect now is this to the board. Now, the reason why I unplugged that because I'll do the handles on this one. I'll just put it up there for now. For a second. Yeah, I had it on because what I want to do is to sort of like this one. Because it was too high. There's no other cables I need now. That wants to go onto the board. The cable hanging down in the case. That one. Just do that. So I just need to pull those through now. Do the back, and then I can turn it around there. so I can now do a bit of cable management around the back here. This is what I mean about certain cases. They have so much restrictions on them. They have so much restrictions. I'm just thinking the way I want to go like this. So I am. Right. Oops. No. This is what I mean about certain cases. PCIe. So I'm going to bundle up this PCIe first of all. Okay, PCIe. I'm just gonna. It's gonna be a temporarily. It's gonna be like a temp. It's gonna be like a temp secure. It's just like hold this cable out of the way while I sort the rest. I don't mind. Now this is where actually, if you've got any wire ties that you can do and undo, they will come in handy as a temporary aid. Would never leave wire ties inside of a PC. And the reason for that is because it's wire and over time it becomes brittle. If it breaks off and gets behind the board, it can cause a short. Whereas these are nylon wire ties, they will get brittle and you know they will break. But because it's nylon, it doesn't conduct no electricity, so it won't actually do any damage. The only thing it might do is probably, if it gets into a fan, just fouls your fan, but it won't actually cause a short or anything. So that's why I don't actually use wire ties in PC. But if you've got a couple around, when you're doing your cable management, they can come in handy, especially when you know that you're going to have to do and redo your wires. You can just tie it temporarily into the position you want. So you suss out all your wires, and then you finally then just tie up all your wires. Whereas these are nylon wire ties. There's my 24 pins. So there's my PCI. So where is the PSU? So these are some of the issues you have to overcome when you're working in not so what I would rate as not so thoughtfully thought out cases. Just people want to throw out cheap cases. But this case was actually in a time where cable management wasn't the in thing. It was just a case to put your motherboard in and that was it. Nowadays, cable management is part of PC build. The issues you have to overcome when you're working in not so, I would rate as not so thoughtfully thought out cases. Just people want to throw cases. Yeah, so I'm just using these temporarily for now. But this case was actually in a time where cable management wasn't the thing. It was a case to put your motherboard in and that was it. Nowadays, cable management is part of PC build. So, an important factor you should take into consideration when actually you decide that you're going to actually build a PC. There's two factors that a lot of people tend to actually overlook. One is your case, depending on what you want to do. I do a lot of work for sort of like business, so they don't want case wins and that. But I'm talking mainly for like home users, people that do gaming and such. The consideration is your case, and the next thing is your power supply. The two main things a lot of people tend to cheap out on. Power supply, you shouldn't really be looking at anything less than what I've got in here, 600 watts. Just for basic home use and in the corporate workplace. Unless of course you're in something like draftsman, you know, if you're in a construction business where you do a lot of diagrams, you know, things like that, or you do a lot of CAD drawings, like, you know, design kitchens, bedrooms, things like that, where you use something that draws a lot of resources, especially graphic wise. Once your graphic card kicks in, it will require more power from your power supply. So then you sort of like think of maybe stepping up your power supply, you know, maybe to a 700-800 watt type power supply. It's just to give yourself overhead. This is more than sufficient for what my client needs. In fact, the system I've got, the power supply I've got my streamer is an EVGA, but it's only a 550. Yeah, this is a 600. The one that I've got in here is a 550. So there, that will show, but that'll do for what I want for now. So then you sort of like think of maybe stepping up your power supply to a 700-800 watt. I mean, if I was to get something like a 30 series graphic card, that power supply would have to be changed out, you know, to something no less than maybe 1,000 watt, 900 the minimum, 1,000 above. There's a lot to be said. Your power supply is actually the heart of your machine, because a faulty power supply where current's not flowing right, the right current flow is not reaching the actual connectors, can cause problem within the system. So I've sort of like got 3 bundles here at the moment, and just basically I am just working out where these are going to go. And now I'm going to swivel around to the back. You're probably not going to be able to see a lot because I've only got a little narrow space here, which I'm going to work on. A faulty power supply where it's not going right. You see, thank the Lord we don't have any cables to run for. We don't have no cables for things like, you know, the hard drive. Yeah? And we used to have a hard drive cable, because these are M.2, that's plugged straight to the board. You don't have any of that issue anymore. Now I'm going to swivel around.
What kind of the side cutter? Cutter.
Better one. Because I don't want any accidents with wires. That's that. That's that. We've got to cut off all these pigtails. We don't want to foul on anything. Things like, you know, the hard drive. We used to have a hard drive because these are M.2, straight to the board. We don't have any of that issue anymore. So, okay, we're not far off getting things ready for posting, for booting up, and then getting Windows installed and stuff. Now you see, if this was a fully modular cable, you wouldn't have this issue, because you just take your cables out that's not required out of the power supply. You can leave them in a box, and then when you want them, you know, you just go and get them and connect them up as and when you need. As I say, everything has its pros and cons. The thing with that, if the box gets thrown out inadvertently, you lost all the cables for this, and you can't just fit any cable. You can't just go, I'll just get any cable and stick it in. It doesn't work that way, because these power supplies are made with the cables for the pinouts. Because although this is VGA, this is a 600 watt. I couldn't take, if this was a modular, fully modular, like that one is, I couldn't take that cable off there and say plug it into there, because although they're the same make, the pinout might be in slightly different places, i.e. the 5 pin and the 12 port pin might be in different places. So when you actually plug it in, you could actually, again, fry your board, cause a problem. So it's not as simple as just getting another cable and plugging it in. You would have to go back to the manufacturers and actually get any, given the model your power supply and the manufacturing date, because as everything develops, from time to time they might change things around, even though it might be the same model. You can get another 600 watt model EVGA A35, but the actual pinouts for your ground powers, for your live power, for your positive powers, could be in actually different places. The pin could have changed, could be over 1, could be over 2, you know, from the position where it was. So it's not just as simple as that. So there's a lot to take into consideration, and that's what people overlook. I mean, you will find some, especially if you're lucky enough to get maybe say a few power supply that are in the same batch, then maybe your cables will be okay to use, but you're not always guaranteed. So there's pros and cons to them all, but I'd probably say if you're going to get a power supply, get a semi-modular, because no matter what, you're going to need the CPU power cable, yeah, and you're also going to need your 24-pin power cable. Those you can't get away. You definitely need those, and then the rest of the cables you just attach as need be. So if you ain't got no hard drives or SATA drives as such, you don't need to stick your SATA cables in, because obviously if you're running off the lanes off the board, right, NVMe drive, your storage here, this is your hard drive. If you're running that off the board, then that there, you're running out of the board. Then there's no cables. It's plugged straight in, so you don't need those cables. You see all these cables now. I would basically would have disconnected. So now you see the cable management's coming good now. So what I'm going to do with this cable management is actually I'm going to secure it up onto this. I'm going to put these cables up into here. So now we've got EPS power, 8-pin, and you know what this is for? This is for your it's up into the board. It's 8-pin, so it goes up into here. Now you see the cable management's coming good now. So what I'm going to do with this cable management is actually I'm going to secure it up onto this. I'm going to put these cables up into here. Here's one. EPS power, 8-pin. 8-pin this one, and the side by side. Here we go. There's 2, and they're both. Check. Yeah, they're both clicked into. Yeah, they're both clicked in. So that's the EPS. Now with that, it's a bit of grief. So I'm going to have to run that up there, and then again I'll find a way of securing it up there. So this is why I tied some of these up in the separate bundles, because issues like this will arise, and that's why I do like the case limitation will determine actually how you best proceed. As you'll find out for yourself if you ever do this, that it's not always. On more modern cases, basically work how you want, because you've got room and all the rest of it. These cases are an older standard, so you have got some issues with cabling. So now you best proceed. So I'm going to do a bit of cheating here. So slightly taller. So I've got 2 sets of ties here. One's slightly longer than the other, because inside PCs you're going to need them for different situations. So now I need to be ambidextrous. So now I need to feed that in there. Yes. Round that there.
And then I've got two sets of ties here, one's slightly longer than the other because inside PCs. But I'm trying to be as smart as. I'm smart myself, there we go. Right, okay. Swivel that round a second. And what I'm doing is. Right. I'll just get that to hold them a second, just because I want to see. Yeah, that's looking okay. There we go. Okay. Swivel that around a second. What I'm doing is I'll just get that to hold them a second, just because I want to see. I've got a case fan I will put in. It's not a PWM fan though. Unfortunately, I've got a case fan I'll put in the back for. Where are you going? Okay, so that's part 1 of 1. Now I need to that's a 1, oh, so that's a 0, 1, 2, 3, okay. So that's a 0, so that goes there. Okay. In fact, I won't connect this. I won't connect the DVD yet. Not until we get things up and running. Yeah, you notice I do certain things and I keep changing my mind. You've got to do this. You've got to adapt as you go along, because in fact you might start off with an idea just at the time, but then when you look at it and think that all of a sudden something comes through your mind, say no, don't do that yet, because there's this and this to do yet. Now look at that already for cable management. It's getting good. See, and I'm only doing temporary ties. Do certain things and I keep changing my mind. You've got to do this. You've got to adapt as you go along, because. So I'll take this in a bit more now. You might start on with an idea. At the time, but then when you look at it and think, oh, this is what you might. Something comes to your mind, say no. Don't do that yet, because this isn't it. This to do yet. Look at that way of cable management. It's good. See, I'm only doing temporary ties. So take this in a bit more now. Like I said, cable management is not something I actually do. I'll do that at the end, but this case dictates otherwise. So I'm having to adapt because I want all these cables tied up here. Sort of like out of the way. Now they're not really going to be seen because, to be quite honest with you, this this system is basically going to be, well, I say basically going to be staying the way it is. The way the client uses the system, I want, you know, it's suffice what she wants, but it's got a bit of expandability. Should the need arise. There's a little bit of expandability, meaning that we can add things. Obviously, need me to come around and cable manage it or whatever, but the cables are there. The way the client uses the system, you know, it's nice what you want, but it's got a bit of expandability. So there is expandability in this system, although there's a little bit of expandability. Meaning that although the standards are changing that rapid, I mean now we're on. This is a Gen 9 system. We're actually now on Gen 11 and 12 in combination. It's more Gen 12. Myself personally, for what it's worth, I'd give Gen 11 a miss and go straight to Gen 12. But each to their own. I mean, it depends what you had at the time. You see, it depends on the circumstances. Everybody's circumstances is different. So I'm just saying, on a personal level, that's me, but I'm not saying that's you. You know, you've all got to make your own. You know, you got to do everything that suits, that will fit your needs, depending how quick you need it, what the emergency is. But if you're a business or whatever, you know, your circumstances are going to be totally different from somebody who can sit at home and wait. So there's always pros and cons to everything. There's nothing 100% one way. You know, my circumstances, my needs, and my expectations are different from other people's. You know, that will fit your needs. Well, one hat doesn't fit all. That's what I'm trying to say. Cable ties are cheap enough to buy, so use them. I've got them, use them. They'll make, as I say, the reason why I'm keeping all these cables sort of like tighten out the way is, one, I don't need all of them, but I don't want them dangling down, falling any fans or anything, but also because I want to give this system as much airflow as possible. I am going to put an exhaust fan on the back. It doesn't have an exhaust fan. The thing is, I've got no PWM fans. It's only a 3-pin fan that I've got. Right, so now it's only a 3-pin fan that I've got. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I don't think it's going to fit, it's too big. I am going to put an exhaust fan. It's too big. That's a 140, what 120? It's only a 3-pin fan that I've got. Yeah, it's a 140 and 120. I've not got a 120, I don't think. It's only a 3-pin fan. It's unfortunate.
Just look and see if I've got 120 fan.
Right. It's too big. I think I'm going to have to order a 120 fan. I've not got a 120 fan. That's a 140. It's too big for that case because that's a micro ATX case. Sorry. Nope, sorry, I don't have a 120 fan.
I'm going to have to order one and fit it at a later date. Maybe I'd like to put a fan in there. Should be alright, but I don't have a 120 fan. Sorry, I don't have a 120 fan. No, I don't have a 120 fan. Order one and fit it at a later date. Won't be in there anyway. You know what? I'm going to order a 120 fan. But in the meantime, we can carry on because it's only a fan that you can. The CPU's got a fan on it, so it's not a problem. It's just to help keep the cooker. It's only because it's such a small, confined case. It won't actually impact, because what the client does with it is not. It won't actually impact the operation of the CPU. But so in the meantime, I shouldn't really have no heating issues. But because I've got OCD, I always believe you should. If anything, don't need a front fan because you've not got a GPU. You've not got a GPU. You've not got a graphics card because the CPU's already got its own graphics. You've not got a graphics card, so there is no need for a front fan. But you should always have an exhaust fan to pull the hot air in. That's building up. That will inevitably build up inside the system, just the way life is. I shouldn't really have no heating issues, but because I've got OCD, I always believe you should, if anything, don't do the front fan because you've not got a GPU, you've not got a GPU, you've not got a graphics card, because the CPU's already got some. So I will. There is no need for a front fan. You should always have an exhaust fan to pull the hot air in. I will order my OCD won't give me the better. I can't do that. I can't. My conscience is in fact, I might even have, if I've got another case up in there, so I will. There we go. We're in. We're in. We are in. We are in. So I might have a. I just thought I might have a fan up in the loft actually. In one of the old other cases that I can take out. That's probably got a front and back fan because it only needs a back fan. It's just the heat that pulls when the processor with its own fan will pull the heat off. It builds up inside there. The back fan to pull it out will be fine. But anyway, that's the gist. So I'll do that after. Now we're going to put on our cooler. Because now I'm going to apply some thermal paste on my CPU. Now we're going to put on our cooler. So I'm going to apply some thermal paste. On my CPU. So I'm spreading it all over the IHS, which is the internal heat spreader, and simply because these newer chip, they have a lot of dies and things underneath the IHS that needs to, you know, to be cooled. Unlike the old days of the old FX processor and the likes, you could get away with spreading it all over the IHS, which is the internal heat spreader, and simply because these newer chip, they have a lot of dies and things underneath the IHS that needs to, you know, to be cooled. Unlike the old days of the old FX processor. I'm looking for. I'll just put my torch now. I'm looking for is I'm just now looking to see where the CPU fan header is, because what I want to do is position. So that's the system fan. CPU fan, which is up there, so it's in this corner. I'm just now looking to see where the CPU fan header is, because what I want to do is position. So that's the system fan. CPU fan, which is up there, so it's in this corner. Now it's manipulation time. I wish I won't put these wires on, so I don't actually like the way these wires are routed. Time. These wires on, so There we go. There we go. Now I'm just gonna, didn't want to, but I'm gonna have to, just because the way the fan goes. There we go. I'm not a great fan of these. Out there. I'm not a great fan of the way they wire this up. If I'm being honest. It's supposed to look good, but it just doesn't give enough cord. Because see, there is tension on there. Out there. I'm not a great fan of the way they wire this up. If I'm being honest. It's supposed to look good, but it just doesn't give enough cord. I'm really not happy about that. I don't like the way that sits. I don't really want to do that because it looks shit. I'm going to have to. It's just because I've got the wire on the cooler. It's just short enough so it doesn't reach. It doesn't reach comfortably. It's taut all the time and it's pressure. And the thing is, don't forget, things in here are going to heat up and cool down. They're going to heat up and expand. So all I'm doing now is just actually, even though I don't like it, I'm just tying this cable away from there so that fan spring it doesn't drop into the fan. I don't really like that. It just seems like you've got a cable suspended, but like I say, no one's going to see into this. But this is not, and this is not. In this instance, it's not actually the cable, it's the actual wire on the cooler, the way it's designed. It's supposed to run around and then clip in, but it doesn't reach, it's too taut. And I don't like things being taut, especially when it's electrical, because if it slips off, that fan stops running, it actually impacts on your CPU. It makes your CPU run hot, your system starts to throttle. You can start getting blue screen where it cuts out and getting blue screen and you're wondering why. And then you're going to be saying, oh, don't be shit. It's not. It's all because certain things are not right. So all this is, I'm happy that I don't like the way this looks, but I want like things being torched between.
Can I?
Slips off. That fan stops running.
No, you see, because the length around that is longer, just not going to reach. And I don't like. I just don't like that at all. It looks so unprofessional. It looks so unprofessional. Right, I'm gonna try something. So I'm gonna try something because I just don't like the way that is. I don't like the way this looks. I want. The length around that is long. I'm just not going to reach. There we go. Right. What will that give me now? I just don't like that at all. It's so unprofessional. No, that's just no good at all. I just don't. Try something. I just don't like it. I just don't like the way that is. I just don't like it at all. It just looks absolutely dire. You're putting pressure on the wires that you're putting tension on the wires that are unnecessary. Right, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to that. But thank God this is not a case camera. If this was a case, then I'd fight. I just don't like it. So, yeah, it looks absolutely baggy. I still don't like it, but it's the best option. It's a safer option. Right, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to. I might come back to a solution when I put that rear case fan in. Okay, that's that. We're now actually ready for booting up. So, yeah. We're not actually ready for booting up. Still don't mind what's the best option. It's a safer option. Unfortunately, I might come back to where's that come across there? Right, unfortunately now, so it's come up. Okay. I'm going to have to. We're now actually ready for booting up. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a while. I'll probably come back later on to finish this off. It's just that something's come up and it needs my attention. And I've got to go, and basically all we're waiting for now is to boot this thing up. I'm going to leave it as it is. Boot it up, so I've just got to set up a monitor. We'll get this thing booted up, and we'll get Windows installed. We'll ensure she's got TPM so that Windows 11 is compatible, which I'm sure it is on this board. But yeah, I'm going to leave it for now, guys. I do apologise, but unfortunately it's just me one, and there's other things going on. So I'm going to stop the stream for here, and then I'll come back probably later on. If not later on, then tomorrow with another stream. So, to be continued. So really, what we've done, we've got the basis of it. The pieces all together now. Let's put my 0 on. Let's get that on. That's a 0. Right. Oh no, I said I was going to leave it off until I've got Windows installed. Because what I don't want to do, I don't want to attach too many peripherals prior to installing Windows. So what we're going to do, touch up a monitor, keyboard and mouse. We're then going to install Windows, get all the updates, make sure it's all good and running. Then we'll attach DVD drive, make sure that's okay. And then I've also got, because the client uses Wi-Fi, I've got a Wi-Fi card here, which also incorporates Bluetooth. So we'll get that installed as well. So we've got that to do. But like I say, I've got
something's come up and I need to go. So I'm sorry about this. I had problems starting the stream anyway because OBS and YouTube wouldn't talk to each other. So that delayed me a bit. And obviously, unforeseen circumstances, that's life. That's life. Right, everybody. I will hope to see you soon. Please come back again and we'll continue what we're doing. Bye for now.